Hello, good day everyone. So welcome back to my channel. Again, this is Jo Bren, yours truly. So welcome back to our new video learning for today. Okay, so we will be discussing about the meaning and importance of architecture. So hopefully you are still with me. Hopefully you are still learning from all the videos that I've posted. Okay, so for today's, I'll be discussing about the meaning and importance of architecture. So, architecture based on science is defined as the art and science of designing and erecting buildings. So, when you talk about the art, it's more about the aesthetic appeal, it's more about beauty, okay? And then when you talk about science, it's more about science is a body of knowledge. So, it's a combination of all the things that we've learned. Okay, when you talk about designing and erecting buildings. So, it's more about the method of design, the construction, and more or less the method of design and construction when you talk about architecture is a reflection of the cultural and religious temper of the era. So the design for architecture is influenced by the functional demands that arise from nature and man alike, as well as the medium of construction available. So the styles, the construction design of buildings depends on the prevailing climate. So if the climate is cool, the design of the building should be on how to keep it warm. If the climate is warm, the emphasis of the design is to keep it cool. So consider the condition. So in short, the architecture is also very concerned with the prevailing climate of the location of the place. So it's not all about doing some construction without considering the environmental impact of the area. Okay, so for example, in the Philippines, in warm countries and other countries, buildings have wide windows to let in the light and the breeze. So for example, here in the Philippines, so we have wide windows to let in the light and the breeze. So in countries where winter or cold spells are felt, the windows are small and tightly secured to prevent the cold air from entering. So in short, in the Philippines, we have wide windows. In other countries, if there's winter or cold spells, the windows are very small. So this is in relation to the prevailing climate of the area. So it really depends on the prevailing climate. So the design, the style, and the construction should be dependent on the area, on the place or the location of the area. So let's talk about the structural materials. So the designer and architect takes into account at least three different basic materials for a building. So if you are the designer, and I also have my own architect, if I am the architect, there should be three different materials for a building. These are the materials for the roof, the materials for the walls, number two, and the floor, meaning the roof, the walls, and the floor. So those are the three different basic materials for a building. So he has to think of appropriate blending of materials considering the strength and the aesthetic appeal. Therefore, if you are the designer, if you are the architect, you should be in account at least three different basic materials for a building: the roof, the walls, and the floor. And you have to think of blending those materials considering the strength and its aesthetic appeal, meaning the beauty appeal. So there are three main qualities to be considered when you talk about architecture. Number one is the structure. So the structure, this determines how the structure reacts to the winds, the floods, the water, the movement, and the like. This is reaction to stress, the structure of the building. That's why if you are living here in the Philippines, the window should be wide. So this determines how the structure reacts to the winds, floods, water, movement, and the like. So if our area is prone to flood, so we should also build a structure that is very secured when there is flood. If there is a strong wind, So number 2 is the texture. This has to do with the roughness or the smoothness of the material. So it directs the choice of tools to use. So it really depends, no? It really depends on the tools that you are going to use. This should blend with the internal structure of the building. So that's texture. The number 3 is the aspect. The aspect, this refers to particular colors and outside skin after tolling. This is important to achieve consistency in design. Again, there are 3 main qualities to be considered in architecture: the structure, the texture, and the aspect. The structure, this is reaction to stress. This determines how the structure reacts if there is flood, the strong winds, water, movement, and the like. For example, earthquake. No, it's really hard to predict earthquake, but we can build a house that has a strong foundation, like a good structure. The roughness and the smoothness of the material. So it really depends on the tools that you are going to use. So this should blend with the internal structure of the building. So this should blend. The number 3 is the aspect. This refers to particular colors and outside skin after tolling. This is important to achieve consistency in. Okay, architects, they are very good at designing construction, choosing the right materials, choosing the right tools. So that's why if you have a house, if you're planning to build a house, it's nice if you can hire an architect so that you will have a good structure, a good texture, and the aspect is also good because they are good at blending all those main qualities of architecture. So structure is the most important quality of design. Yes, the structure of the building. This is very important. Okay, so there is an evolution and type of architecture. When you talk about evolution, there is progress when you talk about architecture. So it all started with ancient relics and old castles and temples show the richness and beauty of ancient civilization and culture. So if we're going to look back in time, in the 19th and 20th century, there are a lot of castles, temples, big temples, ancient relics that really shows the beauty and richness of ancient civilization and culture. So there are types of architecture. We have the Egyptian architecture. So this Egyptian architecture is characterized by enormous pyramidal structure. So there's a huge gateway covers the entire front of the building. So this is evident in many Egyptian temples. Okay. So we also have the Mesopotamia architecture. The third one is we have the Greek architecture. The fourth one is we have the Romanist architecture, the Gothic architecture. The sixth one is the Renaissance architecture. The seventh is the Roman architecture. And the eighth is the Eastern Byzantine architecture. And the ninth is the Baroque architecture. And the last one is the modern architecture. So that was in the 19th and 20th centuries, as what you can see on the picture shown. So there is a huge difference now when you talk about the different evolution of architecture up to the modern architecture. Evolution of architecture. Let's try to see the European architecture. So if you're going to if you're going to look at it, European architecture is rich with old and medieval architectural design, right? So these are evident in the old temples, cathedrals, and amphitheaters. Well, the American architecture, so when you talk about American architecture, American home design evolved from the log cabins. When one hears of log cabin, he relates it to the early American settlers' home. So that was the American architecture before. The log cabin homes, as the term represents, is made out of logs and stones. So that's how it all started. Then came to the American colonial designs. So there we go, the American colonial designs. They they promote the use of concrete and wooden homes. So the roofing is generally made of wood that are better shaped. So in the 19th century, there was no definite American architectural design that could be called purely American in style. The taste of the time was eclectic. This means a combination of styles. While in the Philippine architecture, the architectural structure and design of the Filipino homes evolved from the nipa hut, right? So I am a Filipino. I know about the nipa hut, which is commonly found in the countryside. It is made of a combination of different materials like nipa, palm leaves, wood, and bamboo. So the climate, rainfall, the weather conditions, and the availability of materials are the factors that influence the structure and design of the Filipino nipa hut. So meaning here in the Philippines, we use that because this is a very hot country. So the climate, rainfall, the weather conditions, and the availability of materials are the factors that influence the structure and design of the Filipino nipa hut. So when you try to live in a nipa hut, it's very refreshing, and the air is very free flowing. So it's very refreshing to stay and live in a nipa hut. Okay, so as time passes by, we are evolving. The Philippine architecture is evolving. So other types of houses in the Philippines are made of stronger materials, like we have the stones, the cement, the bricks, the wood, and tiles. So meaning it's evolving. The Philippine architecture, they show influence of Spanish architecture. So we were also influenced by the Spanish architecture. The windows, again, it's still wide for free circulation of air, right? Because we are living in a very hot country near the equator, so we need free circulation of air. So we need that, wide windows. So nowadays, Filipino modern houses are influenced by Western style of architecture. So we are now influenced with the Western style of architecture. So if we're going to visit Philippines, so you can see there's a lot of big houses influenced by a Western style of architecture. So there are still people who are still living in a nipa hut, but as time passes by, people are also trying to immerse the idea of the Western style of architecture. They are made of cement, wood, marble, floor, tiles, galvanized iron, and glass or plastic for the windows and doors. So that's how the evolution of architecture in the Philippines. So again, there are good number of well-known architects in the Philippines, and we have three. Number one is Leandro Locsin and his massive cultural center of the Philippines. So Leandro Locsin and his massive cultural center of the Philippines. And number two is Jose Manosa and his San Miguel Corporation building. So if you're able to go to Cebu, no, there's a San Miguel Corporation building there. I don't know if that is part of Jose Manosa's creation or architectural design. Number three is Francisco Manosa, the beautiful Coconut Palace. Okay, so these are the three famous, well-known architects in the Philippines. So in short, architect is not just about designing, creating, without considering the environmental or the location of the area, without considering the climate, the climate of the area, the condition, the environmental condition of the area. Because if we're going to build a house, it should be fitted to the condition of the location or the geography. Thank you so much for listening. I really do hope that you are learning from all the videos that I've posted. So this is our lesson number 5 in the subject of reading visual arts. And now we are done with the discussion of architecture, the meaning and importance of architecture. So next up is I'll be discussing again the meaning and importance of sculpture. Thank you so much again, and I hope to see you soon. God bless you, and thank you.